everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughn, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today I am very excited because we are welcoming Ikram Guerd, who is doing incredible work at the intersection of women's health and marketing. Ikram is the CMO and General Manager for the US at Aspivix, where they are creating solutions like painless IUD insertion, which let me tell you, friends, it's pretty revolutionary for anyone who's ever been through that. Sounds like a game changer to me. What I love about Ikram's story, though, is how she is bringing over 20 years of experience from both big corporations to scrappy startups across the United States and Europe into this emerging FemTech space. And she does not stop there. She is also on the board of Inspiring Girls USA, mentoring the next generation and breaking down those persistent gender barriers that we are facing. And let's be honest, women's health tech has been overlooked for far too long. And that's why I am very excited to dig into Ikram's approach to marketing, networking, and personal branding today. So whether you are specifically interested in health tech or just looking for a fresh perspective and marketing strategies, I think you're going to walk away with some things that you can use immediately. So Ikram, welcome so much to the Power Lounge. We're thrilled to have you here today.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Amy, for having me. I'm very excited about today.
Absolutely. I'm curious, with such a varied background across some different marketing industries, what is it that pulled you into the femtech space? Was there a specific moment where you thought this is where marketing can really make a difference? Or what is it about femtech in this space?
That's a good question. I will probably just take a step back in the way I started my career. So I've always been interested in healthcare, very, very young. So I wanted to be a pediatrician. Then I wasn't able to go to med school. So I went with my second passion, which was around learning other languages and culture. So I've done a master's degree in international trade. And during that time, I was very lucky to work for Procter & Gamble. And that's really when I just learned about marketing. And I just fell in love with marketing. I was back then more than 20 years ago. So I've completed with a master's degree in strategic marketing. And that experience brought me to healthcare in some ways. So I find this opportunity for 2 months. And those 2 months became 20 years. So wow. I'm very stubborn in a good way, in a sense that I wasn't able to be a doctor, but I was able to find a way through marketing to join healthcare. And I had experiences in pharma, home care, medical device. And during that time, I've learned so much, both on the marketing side, but also in healthcare. Yeah. And being now in femtech kind of makes sense as a woman. So I'm 40 years old. And I had this great opportunity that came from my CEO, who I used to work with 10 years ago in another company. And it's a kind of perfect timing, and we just find ourselves working together. And it makes totally sense. I don't see myself working in any other industry because there's so much to do in women's health. And anyone who would like to join, just please join us. There's so many things to do and fun things to do also on the marketing and innovation.
That's good to know. I think a lot of us within the marketing space have been looking for a sense of passion and purpose. And so, I mean, I know I personally relate a lot to your story. Fun fact, my first year of college was pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor, and I fell in love with, but then also it was like it was a double-sided sword for sure. You know, it's like a love-hate situation. I was in healthcare for a number of years. I was a certified nursing assistant. I worked in the ER, nursing home, hospital, psych office, all these different roles. And there's a lot about like the systems and the things like that within healthcare that feel very like difficult and broken. But at the core of it is just this tremendous sense of humanity and desire to really help people. Exactly. And I think that's what I've always continued to love about it. And then I agree. I kind of like similarly, I did a year pre-med, was struggling to kind of make things work, you know, with my student loans, and then decided to kind of take a hiatus, and then found marketing. And then like you kind of stuck with that road. And so, yeah, I totally get it, how those two can be such a powerhouse, for the sake of really helping others. Because at the end of the day, it's that whole sense of do no harm, even though we never took the oath, as doctors, there are ways that we can, do the work that we love, which is marketing,
Exactly.
and, still fulfill that need of helping and supporting others. So I love
100%
your passion for all of this.
Thank
And, one of the things I wanted to touch on that was from the intro was this introducing certain things like painless IUD insertion devices. It's a challenge because I think, like I mentioned with the systems and healthcare, embracing change is a challenge, right? They're a little bit archaic sometimes in their ability to embrace new tech, to evolve what they do, how they do it. So how do you approach marketing, something that is disruptive in places that kind of feel more traditional?
Yes, that's a very good question. So let me just also take a step back in presenting what our solution is. So the name of the company is Aspivix, which stands for Aspi for aspiration and Vix for cervix. So just looking at what is used currently right now when you get an IUD, and I'll try to make it very short. At least that's one takeaway that you can get out of our discussion today. So when you get an IUD, basically you go to your OB-GYN and very quickly, there's different steps. So they will place the speculum, then they will use something called the tenaculum, and I will invite you to Google it, so that way you can see how it looks like. And it's I would say it's almost like a pair of scissors with two sharpie teeth, and that instrument will help grab the cervix, pull it, and stabilize it. So that way they can measure the depth of the uterus and then insert the IUD. Kind of 4 steps.
Yep.
The pulling of the cervix with these 2 sharpie teeth is one of the most painful step in the procedure. And this instrument has been developed more than 30 years ago during the US Civil War to extract bullets from soldiers. And probably some guy thought, let's use it on women. And
it
Why
not? They don't know how that feels.
No. And it became kind of the standard of care. So it's used in gynecology for this procedure and other procedures as well, like endometrial biopsies, hysteroscopy, and others. So just looking at that, when you think about zero innovation in 100 years, when it goes to women's health, and we know that it's painful. So I'm super glad to see more women, Gen Z, more sharing their stories on social media, saying it's enough. When I'm getting an IUD, recording themselves, it's super painful.
Yeah.
We have spent a lot of time at Aspivix as well, just educating. So everything starts with education, and how even myself as a woman, I didn't know it was done like that until I joined Aspivix. So how do we just empower women to learn more about their own body and how the procedure is done? So that way you can feel empowered to have a conversation with your OB-GYN and ask the right questions. So that's really what we are doing. Everything takes time in terms of changing mindset, practices, and so on. So finding those early adopters, OB-GYN who are willing to change and willing to use innovation. So that's really where we are focused on, and getting great evidence.
And it's brilliant too, right? Because I think it really speaks to those that you're trying to convince within the marketing and the systems to make those changes that they might not be more apropos to do. Is if you educate the consumer and the consumer says there's a better, easier way, then I will go to my doctor and I will ask for that. Exactly. And I think that's so smart. It makes a lot of sense, because that's what you want, is them to move from that educational space to the advocating for themselves self space. Because I think that is another place in healthcare where I wish there was a solution for this, where there could be, and I think there are in certain situations, right? If you've been diagnosed with something terminal, like you might get a patient advocate, but I just kind of wish all of us had patient advocates for us, because it can be overwhelming. It can be confusing to kind of understand and know what things are happening. There's nerves that go into play, right? So when you're sitting there and you're talking about birth control options with your doctor, maybe make some people uncomfortable. And then you're saying, okay, yes, I'll take this thing and you're going to insert it into me. And like you said, I have had an IUD and I had it removed after a couple of years. I didn't love it. The insertion and the extraction both were not pleasant either, I will say, but they didn't describe to me what you just described to me. Why?
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's when you just take a look at the instrument, it's scary. It's medieval. It's really
like a torture
not
device.
exactly, and that's really what we are changing in terms of bringing that into the discussion with a more transparent dialogue between the physician and the patient. And we have one site in Indianapolis, which is like the IU Health, which is currently they're currently using the device, and it becomes part of the conversation. So when they explain the different steps, they show the speculum, they show our device called the cervix, because we care about the cervix, and that's become just natural. And just looking at the device makes the level of anxiety a little bit lower.
Drop.
Exactly. And that helps with just the full experience.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm wondering too, like if, as you're trying to reach these different audiences, patients who need solutions like this, doctors who want to provide them. I don't even know about the insurance companies who want to pay for them. That's a whole nother topic, maybe, for a whole nother day. For those of you who aren't like, you're just listening, like Ikram's head's like, yes, popping up and down. Outside of this patient kind of education into advocacy, like efforts and approaches, are there any other approaches that have worked for you in the ways to kind of get people to acknowledge, adopt, or, embrace new products like these in the market?
In our own experience, we are at the very early stage. So right now we have started the commercialization in Switzerland. We're expanding to Europe. I'm about to launch a commercialization in the US. It's also very interesting to see how, at the end of the day, each woman is different in terms of pain tolerance.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, a woman in the US and a woman in Switzerland or in, in any other country are the same. Yeah. They will feel kind of the same experience. So what we have been doing last year is really focus on getting evidence, creating a community and an ambassador program with early adopters, with different type of institution, from the private office to the academics, and being able to have those users using the device, giving feedback about the user experience, but also on the patient side. What is the patient satisfaction with the use of the device? And we had great results that we can use in our marketing strategy, both targeting B2B, our healthcare providers, but also in our conversation with women patients and just as part of the education.
That's fantastic. And I love this because I think all of this is applicable to anyone in any other vertical that's kind of struggling with getting people to kind of take on and adopt things either on the B2B or the B2C side.
Exactly.
I think it's really, really smart. I love that evidence and community. I think those are very big wins when you can kind of collect those data points and share and create and facilitate those kinds of things too, like community. So I would love to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges you're facing, because I know FemTech isn't always an easy sell, right? It's not at the top of everybody's to-do list. What has been your biggest, how are we going to solve this marketing moment, and what did you learn from pushing through it?
That's a very good question and very broad question. I would say, just to also be very clear on what is FemTech, people tend to get confused with fintech, which has nothing to do.
Interesting, so, right?
Yes.
Financial.
So, exactly. So FemTech and women's health are a kind of a common field. So FemTech is mostly about anything that is technology driven, solutions, services, products that can answer any women's health needs. And that can really goes from reproductive health, menopause, periods, cardiovascular disease, pregnancy, and so on. So the bucket is super, super large. Yeah. So you can think of, and one of the challenge and one of the gaps that we have right now in FemTech is the lack of data. So that's why, like, all the different innovators, companies, research center are really focused on getting data, and AI can help with that.
Yes.
Because basically, when you think about the data we have, we only have around 30 years of data. Yep. Everything that has been done prior to that were clinical studies just used on men, white men. So we don't have the data about how the women's body will react to any medication and all that. So we are trying to fill that gap. So that way we have, so it's under research, underfunded. And to be able to get more investments, you need also to get those data. So we are trying to kind of accelerate and close this gap. So that's one of the challenge.
Yeah.
And AI is a wonderful tool if it's used properly
Absolutely.
to really try to get quicker, faster data that then we can use for our products,
Yes.
innovation, communication, and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to highlight that the fact you stated there, because I mean, I think we've said it before on the podcast, but I don't know that everybody's heard this or realizes this. Pharmaceutical research in general, like clinical research, not until like what, the 90s was done on women. And it's just wild
On
to think
men,
about
yes,
the amount. Yes, it was all men. And then, like you said, all white men. And it's like, so our body chemistry is different. Our
yes,
physiological makeup is different. And so many of the medications that we even take today still don't have an abundant amount of research with women kind of at the forefront of it. And that can be kind of scary. And like you said, between that being under researched and underfunded, it makes it hard to do what you said earlier, where it's like you're building that evidence, you're creating that education, so then you can get to that advocacy and community.
exactly.
But I agree with you. I love, love, love AI for healthcare. Again, having been worked within the systems, and I'm also a patient advocate for my mom. And so like all these lived experiences, there is so much data around our health. And there's also a lot of misinterpretation. There's a lot of human error that, I think in a lot of ways that AI could actually help solve for, and looking for and analyzing the data that we have to see instances in happenstance where we can't see it as humans. I nerd out just for a minute, Ikram, because I have to give a little background. My husband's a former university professor who does like biomedical research through mathematical modeling. So like
Oh,
I've
okay.
watched and seen how he can literally take something like building up something with, a little bit of AI, a little bit of computer programming to model clinical research without the use of humans and animals. And it's
Yes,
accurate. And I'm like, that's
that's
just mind
amazing.
blowing. That's
It
really going
is.
to help us get ahead, or at least get caught up. Really, maybe more than anything, get caught up.
Exactly, exactly. I love
So
it.
yeah, no, it's all very critical. I'm excited to see what AI does for healthcare. I'm not in healthcare as much anymore, obviously, and I'm kind of curious. Like, just quickly, sidebar question is like, how much is the healthcare industry embracing it? What's your sense of it?
Yes, yes. I get to be within the healthcare community in FemTech, which is a kind of a small community, and you get to
Yeah.
see so many innovation coming our way. We just need to get the funding. But also just broadly, I sit into a different committee to review some of the innovation coming our way in terms of mental health, in terms like different things not specific to women. And it's just amazing. Like everybody's
Yeah.
really embracing AI. So
Good.
if you like feel
Good.
like you're not in it, like yeah, you
Yeah.
probably need to right now.
That's good. That makes me very hopeful, because I do think it could remedy a lot of different things, in like the sense of like even like misdiagnosis,
Yes.
misdosing, and like I've dealt with all of these issues as a family, and I'm like, oh, we've got to find solutions for this. So love it. All right. So this next question I really like, because it's really about evolving our thinking and, looking back over your career, which, like you're saying, you've been here for a minute. Are there any marketing approaches that you once swore by that you would completely abandon now, and or maybe are sort of like slowly walking back as far as what you're doing and working within women's health and marketing?
Um, Not necessarily one, because I also like most of my career was really targeting, well, in terms of marketing, I was really targeting B2B.
Uh-huh.
So healthcare providers, pharmacists,
Yeah.
or different type of doctors. I would say that probably it's things that have changed, but that came also with technology. So it has been interesting to see also the evolution of marketing over, at least for my career, over the last 20 years,
Absolutely.
coming from Europe to the US. When we used to be, even if you are targeted, you used to have the same messaging to everybody.
Yeah.
Because we didn't necessarily have the right tools. And now it's like, oh my God, everything goes so fast in terms of development and evolution. So especially in women's health, one size doesn't fit all. So you need to be also very personalized in the way you are reaching out to your different audience within the same targets. So being able to have right personalization, AI can help with that. Being able to also get the right data, so that way you can be even more personalized in your communication. So I would say that the way we use marketing back then is like
Yeah.
targeting and have the same messaging to all of our customers. And now being able to be very precise and specific. Yeah. And that you can see that with the data. It's like it increases engagement. All of that we were not able to track at that time. It makes me feel super old saying that.
No, I get it. I'm there with you. I'm pretty sure we've tallied out the same number of years. I just stopped counting.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
After 15, I was like, 15 plus, sure. But we got to own it, right? We got to own it because it's all valuable experience. Exactly. I'm kind of curious too. This is another fun side question. I've also lived and worked outside of the U.S. and have worked with some international companies as well. And within healthcare and with consumers in general, obviously regulations are different. So I'm kind of wondering too, like with that, like how has your experience been sort of an approach sort of shifted between like Europe and the United States and the ways in which you either can or could or should market?
Okay, so healthcare is very regulated everywhere. Having said that, it depends also on the type of product or service you're offering. In my case, right now, we have a medical device. I used to work in pharma, so the regulations were very different. Yeah. Also in Europe and in the US, the way we are targeting is very different. For a medication, you can have TV ads here in the US. That's something you will never, ever, ever see in Europe. It's like just myself coming to the US, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They have ads for this treatment. I was like, okay. So that's one of the difference. Being in the medical device space, it depends on the classification of your device and who is your purchaser. In our case, it's a medical device class 2. So the one that can purchase are the healthcare providers. Having said that, our device can be purchased by patients in other regions or countries. So you need to be mindful of that because that also impacts your marketing strategy and the way you will be targeting them. For us here in the US, like we are targeting healthcare providers with clinical data, evidence, studies, and so on. And then on the women's side, even if they are not the one purchasing, they can influence. So we have this more like educational content that we develop for them. So it really depends. And I like the fact that even sometimes it feels like, oh, marketing, healthcare, it seems very boring. It feels like it's so regulated that you cannot do pretty much. No, you get a chance to be also very creative. Just also being mindful of the regulatory landscape, but you can still make an impact and have a marketing. So I've done very diverse type of marketing, and I just love it because you get to make an impact.
I agree. I always kind of felt like sometimes those regulations, while they feel like barriers and obstacles, I always saw them as opportunities to kind of get a little more creative, right? Learn the rules so you can break them kind of a mentality. And I do think it is really interesting here stateside how it is like, all these brand name drugs constantly. People just go to the doctor and ask for it. But then at the same time, I'm like, but it's kind of like as squeamish as it makes me sometimes, I also have to acknowledge and realize that like they're in a way they're advocating for themselves. They might hear or see something and be like, well, I need to talk to my doctor about this, or at least know that there's options, right, for a certain type of medication that they maybe didn't even realize. And again, depending on the doctor, mine's great. I like him. That's why I haven't fired him. He'll be like, well, these are all your options. Like, here's what is being like, this is the big name that everybody's putting out there, but here are the side effects. Here are the watch outs. Here's the ways it might interact with you and anything else you're taking. And then here's other alternatives, which I appreciate. And if your doctor doesn't do that for you, ladies, maybe consider finding a new doctor. I'm just saying.
Exactly. 100% agree.
Yep. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm sure working between the two, continents, it definitely creates like a whole nother level of complexity at times, but
it's fun.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, those challenges are why you keep going, right? More things to kind of figure out as you go.
Exactly.
All right. So there's this, we've talked about evidence earlier, and there is like persistent idea around the fact that medical marketing should be all clinical, device, and technical specs, usually kind of, I'd say maybe more on the B to B side, very sterile, very formal. I'm kind of curious, and I'm guessing at Aspivix you might see things a little bit differently. And if so, what is your take on that?
Yeah, you need to have the foundation, and the foundation is making sure that you have the right data, you have evidence, because if you want to impact and make a change, you need to get the buy-in from those stakeholders. So if you don't get the buy-in from the healthcare providers, and if you don't have any clinical data, there's no reason and no way to make anything towards patient, because at the end of the day, the healthcare providers who are the buyers won't buy your product. So making sure that you have those data, making sure that you have data from different regions of the world as well, and they're critical. That helps with building the brand and the credibility, and you can present then those data with the leaders in the area, and making sure that you have exposure in conferences and so on. You need to have that first to be able then to start talking to patients. Like, oh, there's an option out there. This is how it works. So that way they have, the healthcare providers have enough information. Not everybody will buy it right away. Yeah. But if you have those early adopters, they can become your ambassadors. Yeah. And then when women will start having the conversation, then the gynecologist is like, oh, I've heard about it. Oh, I've used it. And then it's a total different discussion. But you need to have this foundation first with technical data, clinical data.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not safe to start without it, but I love that too. And I'm kind of curious, like FDA approval, I'm sure was like a big part of that and hurdle and work through for you all too. I need to remember to connect you to one of my connections. She was a member for a while with Together Digital. Melanie, she is creating a medical device for women, different than what you all are doing, but she is like flying solo on this. She's gone through, I can't remember the name of the Y Combinator out in California, a big accelerator. Okay. And I think she's close to having her FDA approval. And then she needs to hit the ground running with marketing. So I should set up a chat with the two of you.
Yes, I would love that.
Because, it's super, super awesome what she's working on. I know I'm hella excited for it. I don't need it quite yet, but I know in my lifetime that I will. So I'm like all for this. I'm like, how can I help you? So we check in with each other every so often. And then it just, as you were speaking, it's so funny. I left this out. I was working at a pharmaceutical research company at the front desk when I kind of learned, I came from a small town, and our guidance counselor was like, you can be a nurse, not a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a lawyer, or a wife or something like that was his like reply to me when I asked like about career options. I was like, bro, I think I should be a guidance counselor because I would probably do better than you're doing right now. But anyways, just to kind of give you that context, we moved to Chicago after I got married, and I was working at a pharmaceutical research company, and I kind of fell in with the CMO there. She had seen some of the things that I had put together for the office and was like, you do like, you write really well, your design's really nice. Would you want to help me with this like clinical research study, like campaign that we're doing? It's for GERD, which is like the gastroesophageal reflux disease, but in kids. And like, here's like what we need. And I mean, I had no clue what I was doing. I think I laid it out in Word, and then I made a little logo. I still remember what it looked like. And then the day they created candy jars to go on the desks of the doctor's offices, because the kids would be like, candy. And then the parents would be like, oh, brochures, what's this for? And so I had my little logo on the jars, and I remember taking that out and being like, oh, look, I made this. I don't even think I have one of I should have kept one of the jars, right? But that was it for me. I like ditched that job, went back to school, started working at a graphic design firm next door. It was wild. But yeah, I was literally in the throes of healthcare, working at a pharmaceutical research company, debating, I'm like, do I want to be one of these 20 somethings that like has like all these like Delta points and miles because they're just going around schlepping drugs all day, every day? And I was like, no, I don't think so. But this marketing thing is pretty sweet.
I love your story. I love it. Sometimes thanks. It just takes one comment from someone that makes you think about what should I do next, and maybe try something new, and here we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if she's known it. I've mentioned her a couple times on this podcast probably, and I might have reached out to her on LinkedIn at one point or another. Like, we're still connected, but we haven't caught up in forever. But yeah, I mean, I do give her a lot of credit for giving me that opportunity and that inspiration to just go off and try something completely different. So yeah, became marketer Amy instead of Dr. Amy, which is all good. It is all good. Awesome. All right. We've talked already a little bit about AI. And then we have had several episodes on AI marketing. They've all been very, very popular. If you guys want to go back and take a look at some of the past episodes. We talked a little bit about how it's evolving, like the healthcare industry, but I'm kind of curious how AI might specifically change the game for femtech marketing, especially when it comes to sensitive topics that might need more of a human touch, because we are talking about some pretty, private things for some people. Me, I'm like, whatever. We can talk about IUDs all day long.
Same. Right now, I feel like so AI becomes, as I was mentioning, a key tool to help us accelerate our innovation, the way we reach out to our community, the way we engage with our providers. You can use AI in so many ways. So I'll just take as a first example, so many different innovation, developing apps and devices and different kind of services to help women throughout different health conditions or just throughout their health journey. Yeah. So I've seen so many amazing things where we can also correlate different type of data. And we can, right now there's many different hot topics. IUD insertion is a hot topic. There's anything related to menopause. Suddenly we just discovered that, oh my God, every woman will go through menopause. So everybody's talking more openly about menopause. Surprise! Yes. And there's so many things that are coming our way in the market with apps that can really help you with Oura brings like monitoring your cycle and just going back to the way that women have hormones and they fluctuate quite a lot, and that means a lot. So if you can predict the variation of hormones, then that way you can be able to take care of yourself and take ownership of your own health. Yes. So being able to get those data as predicator, and that way you can have the right advices, symptoms, conversation then with your healthcare providers. So many great things coming in the market. So we just need the funding. Also in the more on the marketing side, so many ways to use AI. When you think about, I was talking about personalization, we can even take it to the next level with hyper personalization. See collaboration with other industry. Why not? There's if you can be creative and say, okay, we have this data. If you can maybe combine it with other companies more on the fitness, sport, diet, nutrition, and get something that can really help and bring a solution, and engaging the audience with right content at the right time to the right people. Smart education. AI can really help with smart education. What else? Social listening. There's so many conversations. So it's really about opening the conversation, creating that community, being able to really monitor and have this those data that you can use, and that can help also with the hyper personalization. So many ways to. I can talk hours about that, but many ways that we can use it.
It's exciting. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I was thinking a couple of things as you were giving those examples. Those are all brilliant. Thank you so much. Is Aspivix using a chatbot, any kind of AI chatbot right now?
Not right now. It's something we are looking at. Okay.
I want to introduce you then to Lauren. Then we just had a masterclass, and she broke my brain on our Together Digital masterclass on AI marketing with your bot. And because here's the thing, Ikram, what I'm hearing and seeing, and this is anecdotal, so I don't have a whole lot of data on this, but and also a little bit of case study in one, is that I am seeing and hearing that people are almost more comfortable asking uncomfortable questions to AI. It's kind of like going to Google search, right? You don't want nobody to see that Google search because that's embarrassing possibly. But there's something about having a highly personalized, highly attentive chatbot that might actually make it easier for you to ask the hard questions that maybe face-to-face you couldn't ask. So if you're up for it, I would love to introduce you to Lauren at Mongoose. That's what they do.
Definitely up for it. Yes, please do. Yes,
all about connecting. And I was when we went through that masterclass, I was whoa, there's just so much that they've seen a ton of lift in actual conversions and engagement when they are just really well fine-tuned, well-built bots that don't feel like bots at all on the back end or on the front end to the consumer. And then I loved what you were saying about apps too, because as women who obviously need to advocate for ourselves in an abundance of places, in the doctor's office is another. I am 43. I'll be 44 next month. And I know I am premenopausal. but I'm also kind of shit about keeping track of my cycle. But I know it's not regular. So I'm like, why bother? Because it just comes when it wants. And I have hot flashes and I have insomnia and then I feel fatigued and brain fog. But then my male doctor is like, nope, you're too young. But again, if you have, like you said, that data, or you could be kind of having those things more easily tracked. I know people love like those Aura rings and things like that, whether it's devices or other apps to help you track. Like, again, like you said, that information is power, so that you can be like, yo, just look at the data, buddy. And tell me.
Exactly.
I'm not premenopausal because I can't lose weight also. Like, and I'm having hot flashes, but I'm on a pill. Like, and he'll be like, oh, that is strange.
Exactly. And that's the scary part. Even OB-GYN, they have a very short amount of time in their education, their curriculum to really cover menopause. So even your doctor doesn't know that much about menopause. So right now we are like getting this data and learning every day. So the more data, the better. But still, like even with your physician, I'm sure that there's so many things he doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, and then to be fair, not to just throw him under the bus, but my female gyno said the same thing to me. She did. I was really shocked. I was like, and here I thought we were simpatico. She's like, no, it just seems too early. And I'm like, then explain the symptoms. Then what is happening to my body that I'm having hot flashes? They're like in the middle of the night sweats, like all these things. I'm not sick, but yeah. Anyhow, off that soapbox for a minute. Also, I wanted to kind of remind, as we get to our last few questions, our live listening audience, you are always welcome to drop into the chat and ask any questions that you have for us as we kind of get towards the end of the session. I want to pivot for just a moment into the amazing work that you're doing with Inspiring Girls USA. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who they are, what they do, and then, a lot of us within this kind of industry, we're kind of workaholics. We do love what we do and we work hard, but it often feels like we can't bring our whole selves and our professional expertise, as well as our lived experiences, to help advocate for better solutions. So I'm kind of curious, like, one, about Inspiring Girls USA, and then two, this kind of feels like a double question now, to like, how do you work through the balance personally? So let's start with Inspiring Girls USA, and then more of like how you're navigating and managing the balance of being able to bring your whole self to work.
Okay. So Inspiring Girls, I've always been, I'll just take a step back quickly. It was probably 15 years ago. I had one of my manager. He was a man, and one day he told me, like, I was like working very hard, getting great results. He was very happy. And then when he was asking me, what do you want to do next? And then I told him, I want to be a manager. He basically kind of laughed at me. He was like, no, you cannot be a manager. You're too nice. I was like, you're too kind. I was like, yeah, you cannot say no. Okay, right. Interesting. Then just coach me. Then I think he just didn't believe in me. A year later, I moved to another company. I had my first leadership experience. And since then, I've been a leader for over 10 years, both in Europe and in the US. I've built marketing teams. And I'm glad that I had also that type of feedback, because that really drove me. And that helps me being who I am right now.
Right.
Having said that, one way to also give back was how I can give back to others, because that's something that is very important to me. So giving back to my team, I'm very proud and very grateful to be able to sit in that position and to have mentored others. Yeah. Some of them even took my position, which was like the best reward ever.
Right.
Exactly. So, and joining Inspiring Girls was an extension of that. How can I also help with my experience and help other girls? Because I wish I had someone that during that time who could have been a great mentor and help me navigate that type of feedback and situation with all the self-doubt that you can have. So Inspiring Girls was a great opportunity to join a team of women who have been successful in different industries and bringing that experience back to young girls from the age of 7, 8, and showing them that we look alike. There's a women who have been successful in finance, in healthcare, in sports, and have those conversations. So different type of formats. We have webinars. We go to schools and explain what is our leadership journey, the challenges we have faced. And we have also kind of a speed dating networking session where they can get to ask their question. And it's super empowering and super cute in some ways to have those young girls, 8 years old, very like impressed.
Yeah.
And at the same time, very open and very curious to ask questions. How did you get there? What is it? What is a surgeon doing? And how can I get there? And seeing women who look like you also is very inspiring. So that's really about the mission we have. So finding those role models in different industries.
I love it. I love it. That has to be so fulfilling and satisfying. And thank you for sharing your story about that boss, because I'm sure all of us have kind of been in some similar situation. And all I could think, Ikram, was like, who's laughing now? Like, who's laughing now? Like, she's been a leader now for like 15, 20 years. Who's laughing? And then I always joke and say, like, if the one way to get me to do anything is to tell me that I can't do it. Right? Because then I'm going to be like, watch me.
Yes, exactly. I'm the same way.
Right? Got to prove I'm wrong. And I do feel like something like this, where you can find the time, space, and opportunity to volunteer. I think there's like this volunteer fatigue that has happened over the last like 5 or 6 years, just because, again, the world's gone through a lot. But I love that you're still doing this, because I think there's so much that you get back. It's not just about the giving. You receive so much, right? Because I coach girls soccer. There's a local community here called Innovation Girls that I've helped to support. And honestly, I know that they get big-eyed, starry-eyed when like we walk in, but I get just as psyched when they walk in, because they're just so brilliant. Like, they don't even know it yet, but they're just so brilliant. And they're still very uninhibited, which I love. The world's not beating them down and made them pessimistic. So I do highly encourage you all.
Yes.
If you feel like you're lacking like that sense of connection, purpose, self, like just getting out there in community with others and volunteering is such a great way to do it. So I love that you're doing that, Ikram. It sounds like an amazing group.
Likewise. I love it. And that's going back to your second question. Sometimes it's difficult to balance, because you have your full-time job, you have your family job, you have also other commitments here and here. I'm the kind of person who I'm very curious. So I love to learn every day something new. I love to network with people, get to know other inspiring leaders, and being able to find some time also to volunteer. But that's the kind of activity where you just get out of it and you just feel fulfilled. Oh, yeah. It just makes you feel super good. And it kind of rebalance all the things going on in your lives. Like, okay, I'm doing that, but I'm definitely seeing some impact, and just planting a seed early on. And maybe this young girl will be an inspiring leader. And that's something I will be kind of very proud, kind of like a mama.
No, exactly. I believe it. I agree with you. Every time I volunteered, I consider it a form of self-care. I consider it as just for me, as for anybody else, because like what you said, when you walk away feeling good about it, my daughter he was 11, he was in a bit of a slump in the fall and just feeling kind of powerless. That was the first thing I thought of, was like, what volunteer activity could I sign her up for? Or what could we do as a family that might make her feel like she can make a difference, she can make an impact, she can make a change. So again, I know so many of us, we're talking about healthcare and regulatory and like clients and all these things. Like, it can always feel like it's no, barrier. But like things like this are, not just opening up doors for yourself, but definitely opening up doors in, perspective for others. So thanks again for doing that work. I love that you do it.
Likewise.
All right, cool. Well, we're at our power round questions. These are fun, like lightning round type of questions. I wanted to know, is there a specific marketing metric that you think matters more in women's health than other industries in particular, and one that people might be overlooking?
Not necessarily specific to FemTech, although I would probably think about metrics around patient experience score, things where we can also capture how the patient is feel more comfortable and respected when they engage with your brand. And then you can use different points to measure that. The engagement on social media, having surveys sent if they are going to their physician to see how was the experience, but being able to have some kind of patient experience score that you can really highlight also to healthcare providers, and showing that it's working, you're making an impact, and overall it's helping the women.
Yeah. Testimonials are far overlooked across all industries, I think, for how many reviews we like to rate and that are out there. Yeah, I'm just as guilty. So yeah, totally. Let's see. I know that you're on the marketing side. I'm not sure how close you are to the gaining capital and fundraising and things like that. But, I feel like when I have talked to women in any kind of femtech space overall, it's often dubbed as like too niche for much of the investment. Never mind, we're 50% of the population and 85% of the buying power in this country. No big deal. So I'm sure you've heard this too, but what are some ways in which you've tried to, or that Aspivix has tried to respond to that kind of classic notion that femtech is too niche?
Oh my God, you have no idea how many times we've heard this. So I'm also helping with the fundraising for the company. And
you are? Okay.
Yeah. And when you pitch to investors, most of the time investors are men.
Yep.
And it's heartbreaking in some ways to see we are 51% of the total population.
Yep.
So definitely not a niche market. Getting only 2% of the total VC fundings.
Right.
The potential of femtech is huge. That's one of the fast growing sector in healthcare right now.
Yeah.
So that's why we need more money. We need more innovation. We need more talent joining. We need to talk more about everything we are doing.
Yeah.
I'm starting hearing less and less this market niche.
Good.
I don't know if it's finally changing. But at the end of the day, we are not getting all the investment. Right. So still work in progress, but I'm hearing it less and less. Maybe one of the reasons is that we are also getting more women joining the VC world. So investing themselves. So they can understand, they can relate, and they can understand why is it important to invest. Yeah. So I will encourage more women to join. And also just men overall, just going back to the educational piece. Yeah. It's really about education. That's something they won't have to go through.
Right.
This type of contraception, all the different conditions we might have or challenges we have as a women. Yeah. But educate them. They all have wives, sisters, daughters in their life that at some point might need to go through any of that. Right. So I love doing during those pitch, having just a conversation and being a little bit controversial in the way I'm presenting the device. So just showing our medieval instrument that is currently used and just thinking about how would you feel if it was used on your body part.
Yeah.
And then we can have a conversation. Yeah. So it has been amazing to see also the reactions like, oh, is it right. how it's used? And it's still in use? Yeah. And it's like, I don't want my girlfriend to go through that. And when you think about just IUD, 99% of the most efficient contraceptive solution.
Oh, yeah.
But so many women are just afraid of pain. So it's really about changing that conversation on the patient level, but also from the investor side. It's like really understanding the potential. Like if we can eliminate that, the potential of the market just financially is also very important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a great call to action for our allies. Put your money where your mouth is. Like, if you've got money to invest and you are an ally, like find those diverse groups to invest in. And then also I would say to women, I agree with you, more women, we need more women investors. And you don't have to be sitting on a buttload of cash to be an investor. There are loads of groups out there that are like social impact and angel investors and things like that. Actually, another person, this is like me, I'm made a list now, Ikram, of all these people I want to introduce you to.
I love it.
And one of them is also a mentor and friend of mine, Sue Baggett, who's a part of Queen City Angel Investors, huge advocate and proponent for, helping more women get funding. She was a co-producer for Show Her the Money, which is a documentary they've been screening all across the globe. And so she's got some great connections too. That's why I want to connect you to her so she can connect you to her people that are specifically looking for femtech and healthcare, like feminine healthcare type of things to invest in. So, if you guys are always like constantly looking and raising, that's hard. That's another job on top of your job, Exactly.
It can be, exhausting. But at the same time, I always take that as an opportunity to educate, to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
And you get to use marketing skills also in that setting in a different way. So that's another kind of stakeholders. And it's all, at the end of the day, when you think about the common thread, it's all about story. So
Yes.
what is your storytelling? And how do you create that connection, that emotional connection, so then people can remember you? So it could be through different ways, but I love this exercise as well.
I agree. It is a good exercise because you're constantly having to pivot and you're having to take something that is intended for your target audience and then explain it to and simplify it and get the people to empathize that are not. Because, right, usually the investors, the people on the other side of the table when you're vying for capital don't look like you. And I've heard that from so many, again, I've got so many female friends who are business owners within like tech and other places that it's that same thing. You're sitting across the table and it's really hard to help them relate. But I think sometimes, like you said, getting a little controversial and being like, would you like this used on yourself in your parts? No. On your wife? No. Pretty much sold at that point. At least I hope so. If not, I don't know. Maybe there's something else we got to talk about. But all right, one last quick one. What is the most unexpected place that you have found inspiration for a campaign that you've done in the past?
There's no one specifically. I would say just be very open-minded, and I'm very curious. So I don't necessarily take a look at anything that is done within healthcare. There's so many great examples, but I'm always trying to be very curious and look at different industry. The sports industry is very interesting in the way that they are empowering also the sport leaders. So how can we use what they're using in our communication? Because at the end of the day, it's also about empowering women. So that's an industry I kind of like, and I'm interested in looking at what they're doing. Especially right now, they're doing, when you take a look at the last campaign with Nike, really focused finally on women. So how do they tackle that? And is there anything that we can learn from it? Or maybe something that they can learn from us too. But really looking at other industries in the way they're approaching and so on.
I love that advice. That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I never loved that. Like, what's your favorite campaign running currently within this industry or vertical? And I'm just like, you know what? I'm minding my business. If I'm doing anything, I'm looking out to see what other groups and other industries are doing, because that feels more disruptive than just seeing what's already there and then trying to copy somebody else's efforts.
Yes.
Love it. Such a helpful conversation. Like, again, so insightful, Ikram. Thank you so much. I know our listeners are going to want to follow you and your work. What is the best place for them to connect with you and learn more about Aspivix?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn, so I'm easily found. So you can just find me, Ikram Guerd. Very open to engage and network with any of you. And Aspivix, they can go to, maybe we can have in the chat the link. So it's aspivix.com, aspivix.com. So feel free to reach out, ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Well, our listening audience is quiet, so I'm guessing they don't have any questions at the moment. But as she said, you can reach out to her on LinkedIn. And then as soon as I'm done clicking around on all the wrong things, I'll drop the website in there for you all. To everyone listening, I hope you've enjoyed the episode today. We'd love if you subscribe to the Power Lounge. It's streaming on all channels that you might listen to podcasts on. Most of our community does listen on Apple Podcasts, so you can easily find us there. And of course, I hope that you join us togetherindigital.com if you want to connect with more amazing women who are sharing their knowledge and lifting each other up in the digital space. This is the place. This is the place. We do this all day, every day, and it's like the best feeling ever. So I encourage you to get on it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next week. Ikram, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Amy. It was a pleasure. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Produced by Heartcast Media.